What if the reason you've always felt different wasn't because something's wrong with you, but because maybe, just maybe, you're brilliant? How maybe even a genius. But the world doesn't measure that kind of intelligence and that kind of genius. It doesn't test for curiosity, passion, or the ability to think in dimensions that haven't been written yet. Instead, it gives you a number, a grade, a box to sit in. But genius isn't about how loud you are. Sometimes it's buried, sometimes it's misdiagnosed, and sometimes it's never recognized at all. I'm Len, this is the Maverick Mind, and in this series, we're going to explore what intelligence really is, how to actually raise it, how to really use it, and how to break past every story that said that you couldn't. Because the truth is, you might be a genius and not even know it. Because more often than not, the ones who question their intelligence are the ones who carry the most of it. Let's start with the myth that we've all been fed since childhood in almost every case. That our brain, our IQ is fixed, and once it's been accurately measured, you get a number and that's it. That number is called your IQ, your intelligence quotient. It was designed over 100 years ago to predict who would do well in school. Not who would start a movement, not who would change the world. And here's the truth that rarely gets said. The easiest way to raise your IQ score is to practice taking IQ tests. You'll get faster, you'll spot the tricks, you'll memorize the patterns that they like to use. But that doesn't mean you're smarter, that just means you're better at taking the test. Knowing obscure vocabulary words that no one ever uses in real life is not a sign of your intelligence. Real intelligence is creative, it's practical, it's adaptive. Einstein once said, "Not everything that counts can be counted. IQ is a map, but it's not the territory. It measures how fast you can solve puzzles, how well you can remember symbols, how quickly you can process patterns, but not whether you create new ones. It doesn't measure imagination. It doesn't measure emotional depth, creative insight, or your ability to sit with paradox. It doesn't measure wisdom or vision or fire. But those are the exact traits that define real genius. If you've ever felt like your mind worked differently, like you're good at things no one else seems to value, or like you think in ways that other people can't quite follow, that might be the most important clue of them all. See, here's the real quiet assumption we're raised with, that smart people know they're smart. But that's just not true. Often the people with the most powerful minds are the least sure of them. Because when your brain doesn't fit the system doesn't give you a trophy, it just gives you doubt. Real intelligence isn't about answering questions. It's about asking better ones, about seeing what others miss and imagining what doesn't yet exist. And that kind of mind doesn't always show up on a test, but it does change everything. Now, here's where it gets personal. Because if real intelligence isn't measured well by IQ tests, what is it measured by? Grades, the standardized exams, speed, obedience? Most of the time, the system doesn't measure how smart you are, it measures how well you comply. Because the truth is, the system doesn't actually value genius, it's threatened by it. If you're fast, compliant, organized, and think in straight lines, you're rewarded. If you're nonlinear, slow to speak, but fast to see, if you need space to think or question, you're often seen as lazy, difficult, or worse, not that smart. I know because I've lived it. I nearly flunked kindergarten. I was placed in elementary school in a special needs group. I wasn't failing because I didn't understand them. I was failing because I was bored to tears. I just couldn't handle it. It was too slow. Nobody looked at me and said, maybe this kid's mind just doesn't fit inside these lines. They just assumed I wasn't bright and treated me as such and convinced me of such. It wasn't until middle school, when I finally had the freedom to choose some of my own subjects, that I realized maybe I wasn't stupid. Maybe I was just never given the right questions. And that's the thing. So many people grow up thinking they're average or broken, not because they lack intelligence, but because they were never given the chance to discover it. They were labeled too early, boxed in too small, and told to sit when their brain was trying to move. The system rewards fast answers, but genius often needs time. So if you've ever been told you were lazy, unfocused, underachieving, or just didn't live up to your potential, maybe that wasn't your failure. Maybe you didn't fail the system, but the system failed you. Now, Here's the truth that no one ever tells you. Genius rarely looks like what you think it does. It doesn't always get straight A's. It doesn't always finish college. It definitely doesn't always feel smart. In fact, genius often feels the opposite: uncertain, frustrated, restless, like your brain is full, but your mouth can't keep up. Like you can see things no one else sees, but have no idea how to explain them. Real genius isn't tidy. It's not always fast. It's not always charming or charismatic or polished. Sometimes it's chaotic. Sometimes it's obsessive. Sometimes it's intense, overwhelming, even painful. But the common thread is pattern recognition, it's imagination, it's depth. It's been able to hold 5 conflicting ideas in your head and still move forward. When I look back now, I see the signs of my own life. I used to dive so deep into subjects I cared about that I absorbed everything I could find. Hours would pass by like minutes. It wasn't about proving anything. It was about feeding a kind of mental hunger I didn't even know how to explain back then, only that it felt right. Not because I was trying to prove anything, but because I had to know. When I cared, I devoured information. When I didn't, I checked out completely. That's not inconsistency, that's alignment. That's what a nonlinear mind does when it finally is given something worth its time. So if you've ever felt like your brain only works when you're deeply obsessed, or like you need purpose to unlock your power, you're not broken, you're wired for depth. If you've overanalyzed everything, feel everything too deeply, or can't stand small talk because your mind's already chasing galaxies, that's not dysfunction, that's a hint. Genius doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like you before you knew who you really were. And here's a twist most people miss. The people who think they know everything, the ones who never question themselves, who speak with absolute certainty, no matter the topic, you know them, are often not the smartest ones in the room, just the loudest. Because real intelligence comes with doubt, with curiosity, with the awareness that the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. Genius isn't fueled by certainty, it's driven by obsession, questions, discomfort, and depth. So if you've ever felt unsure, if you've ever kept quiet in a room full of confident people because you were still thinking deeper, that might have been your genius doing exactly what it was built to do. By now you might be wondering, okay, if genius isn't about test score, how can you actually raise your IQ? Well, not just your IQ score, but your real, usable, everyday intelligence. The answer is you absolutely can, and it's easier than you think. Your brain isn't fixed. That's one of the biggest first steps that you have to know. If you've been told, like I myself and others, that your IQ can never change and that's just the way it is, you've been lied to, and you need to understand that. Your brain is plastic, adaptive, and it rewires itself constantly based on how you use it. It's called neuroplasticity, and it's one of the most empowering discoveries in neuroscience because it means intelligence is something you can grow. No, you won't go from Forrest Gump to Einstein overnight, just like no one goes from a couch potato to Olympic athlete in a week. But intelligence can be trained, it can be strengthened, and the more you work it with intention, the more powerful and flexible it becomes. When you learn something new that challenges you, you build new neural connections. When you reflect, journalize, meditate, you use metacognition, which is your ability to, ironically, to think about thinking. When you surround yourself with better questions, you create better answers, which then inspires better questions. When you choose deep focus over endless distractions, your brain adapts, and you literally change its structure. Your intelligence isn't just what you know, it's how you think, how you adapt, how you connect seemingly unrelated things. Your intelligence isn't just something you have, it's something you use. So maybe you weren't told you were smart. Maybe you never felt like a genius. Maybe school made you feel average or worse, invisible. But what if intelligence isn't something you prove to others, but something you unlock for yourself? What if your real power isn't even being activated yet? In this series, we're not going to just talk about IQ, what it is, and how to increase your intelligence, how to become a genius. We're going to break down the myths, the models, and the mental habits that hold people back, even the brilliant ones. We're going to learn how to increase your intelligence in real ways and how to train your mind, sharpen your awareness, and start using the full range of what you're capable of. Because intelligence isn't about something you have, it's about something that you use. And if you ever felt like you had potential but couldn't access it, if you've ever suspected there was more to you than anyone has ever seen, you're not alone and you're not wrong. You might actually be a genius and not even know it. If this feels like you and if this topic interests you, please be sure to like and subscribe, comment, and also consider joining Patreon. And I've just recently started a YouTube membership. I am very confident you're going to find this series very interesting if you've watched this far, because this is just the beginning, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with you. We'll be breaking down also how to actually increase your real intelligence, not just your test score, but your cognitive power, your clarity, and your creative fire. I'm Len. This is the Maverick Mind. Let's rewrite what intelligence really means together. Thank you.